morning. We're so happy that you're here. I'm Joe Cavazza. I'm the president of St. Anselm, and we really are very happy to welcome you this morning to the New Hampshire Institute of Politics, which is New Hampshire's home for politics. It's hard to say that because in New Hampshire, it's all about politics, but we're very happy that you're here. And we're pleased to host this second annual Innovate New Hampshire Entrepreneurship Forum today. It's very important to us and to the state, the conversation that will be here today. And we're, of course, very honored to have Senator Hassan with us. Senator Maggie Hassan is the second woman in American history, as you know, to be elected both governor and United States Senator, along with fellow New Hampshire Senator Jeanne Shaheen. She was elected to the U.S. Senate in 2016 and serves as a member of the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee, the Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee, the Finance Committee, and the Joint Economic Committee. Senator Hassan was drawn to public service as an advocate fighting to ensure that children like her son, Ben, who experiences disabilities, would be fully included in their communities and have the same opportunities that all parents want for their children, which is an issue that's very dear to me as well. That's my wife's area of research in terms of early childhood special education, and it's a very important one, and I'm really pleased that Senator Hassan is such an advocate. So please join me in welcoming Senator Maggie Hassan.
Well, President Cavazza, thank you for that very kind introduction and welcome to New Hampshire. We are very glad to have you here, and a thank you as well to the Institute on Politics. It is wonderful to be here. I would also like to recognize all of our panelists and our presenters and everybody who has helped put this event together. And thank you in particular to all of the entrepreneurs, business development leaders, academic advisors, and more who have joined us here today. Before I begin, I just want to give you a quick overview of the program this morning. First, I'll outline some of the priorities I'm focusing on to support innovation and entrepreneurship in the Granite State. Next will be our first panel focused on workforce solutions. And then we'll have a second panel on fostering innovation in our state. And I will let you know I have to leave after the first panel because there's a plane to catch to DC, but the program will continue with the second panel. And I'm sorry I'm going to miss that, but I'll get reports from everybody who is still here. In the back of the room, we have friends from organizations around the state, each designed to help your business succeed here in New Hampshire. So I encourage you to speak with them about their programs during breaks and after the second panel. Now, with all the logistics out of the way, I'll get to why we're all here. New Hampshire's innovative businesses and entrepreneurs are the engines of our economy. You create good jobs, you support a strong middle class, and you serve as the backbone for our communities. One of the best parts of my job has always been talking to business leaders across the state. I hear about the unique opportunities that you have to start up and grow a business in New Hampshire, and about the great work you are doing in a whole variety of sectors. But I also hear about the challenges that you experience on everything from getting your business off the ground to sustaining it with a workforce that is prepared. We need to do more to support your work because helping businesses and entrepreneurs thrive is vital to laying a strong foundation for economic growth. Today's forum is a place for business leaders to come together, learn, and discuss your successes, and also how you're navigating your challenges. I'm also hopeful that you will all use this as an opportunity to network and gain important resources that can help you in the future. And I look forward to taking what I hear from our panel today back to Congress to continue to inform my efforts. Supporting innovators and entrepreneurs has been a major priority of mine throughout my time in office. As governor, I was proud to launch the Live Free and Start initiative, which worked to support startups and help them access capital. I also worked across party lines to increase and make permanent New Hampshire's Research and Development Tax Credit Program, which has been a vital component in supporting innovative businesses. I'm working to build on those efforts in the United States Senate. I'll soon be introducing legislation to support networks of startup incubators, including those at the New Hampshire Tech Alliance, Alpha Loft, UNH, and the Hannah Grimes Center, which provide critical resources to support businesses in the early years of their development. Those resources include low-cost space, access to capital, business counseling, and mentorship opportunities, all of which help transform startups into successful small businesses. My legislation would strengthen existing incubator networks, such as the network in our state, and incentivize other states to follow New Hampshire's lead by creating incubator networks. Strengthening incubator networks would help ensure that more new businesses, including businesses in rural areas, have access to these vital resources. My legislation also ensures that we would do this in a way that would expand opportunity for traditionally disadvantaged entrepreneurs, including veterans, women, and those who experience disabilities. In addition to my work on expanding incubator networks, this year I also introduced bipartisan legislation to double the federal R&D tax credit for startups and extend it to small businesses, to more small businesses. The R&D tax credit bolsters the efforts of businesses to invest in the development of new innovative products that lead to job creation and to a stronger economy. By expanding this tax credit, we can ensure that granted staters who are starting up their own businesses have the resources that they need to turn their innovative ideas into reality. Finally, I'm continuing to work to ensure that you have the 21st century workforce that you need, including through bipartisan efforts like the Gateway to Careers Act, a bill I reintroduced earlier this year, which has now been endorsed by the Business Roundtable. The Gateway to Careers Act would provide grants to support partnerships between community or technical colleges and workforce development partners such as state workforce development boards, industry associations, and community-based organizations. These partnerships would help remove many of the barriers that prevent too many people from completing a 2-year degree or credential by connecting them to support services like housing, mental health, and substance use disorder treatment, assistance in obtaining health insurance coverage, offering career counseling, childcare, transportation, and other services. Across our state, businesses are taking a forward-thinking approach to getting their ideas, their businesses off the ground and to thrive. I'll keep trying to emulate that approach, working on policies in Congress to give you the resources that you need. So I want to thank you all again for joining us today, especially the business leaders here who are here to lend their knowledge about what it takes to start a successful business and for sharing your experiences. I also encourage everyone here today to stay in touch with my office about anything we can do to support your efforts. And if you need help with a federal agency or have an idea on a legislation that could support your efforts, please let us know. It's where the best ideas come from. So with that, I thank you again for all being here, and I'd like to bring up our panelists for today's first panel discussion, Innovative Solutions to Workforce Challenges. So welcome to the stage, please, Frank Zidias of Milford High School, Tim Sullivan from Hitchner, Emily Schwerman-White, co-CEO of the Badger Company, Emily Zane from Apprenticeship New Hampshire, and Adria Bagshaw, Vice President of WS Bagshaw. Thank you. Feeling very, is that on? Yes. Everybody here? This feels very congressional hearing like. Microphones, you know. So, what I wanted to do, first of all, thank you to all the panelists for being here. I haven't been able to say hi to everybody this morning, so good morning and hello. What I thought I would do is introduce all of you, and we'll start out with comments from each of you, and I'll kind of try to frame those a little bit, and then we'll see some questions back and forth and maybe discussion among the panel. As I mentioned earlier, workforce challenges are one of the key issues I hear about from businesses across our state. I know, because I've interacted with all of these wonderful panelists, that it's an issue that everyone on this stage knows about all too well. And I will tell you, I have been hearing about this issue since campaigning for governor in 2012. It's been on everybody's radar, and it just keeps being an issue I hear more and more about. This discussion is really aimed at highlighting some of the great work that our distinguished panelists are doing to help address the challenge of finding and keeping good and prepared workers. So before we start that discussion, I'll take the opportunity to briefly introduce the panelists who are with us today. Emily Zane, right here, is the grants manager of Apprenticeship New Hampshire, a grant-funded initiative for the community college system, which helps to connect employers to apprenticeship programs as a proven solution to hiring and retaining highly skilled employees. Frank Zidias, Frank, raise your hand way down there, is the manufacturing teacher at Milford High School, specializing in STEM education. Frank developed a junior apprenticeship program for high school students. Tim Sullivan is the Vice President of Corporate Affairs and Services at Hitchner Manufacturing. Tim has served in several leadership roles since joining Hitchner in 1995. Emily Schwerin-White, right down here, is the co-CEO of W.S. Badger Company. As a second-generation family owner, Emily co-leads Badger's strategic visioning and oversees its sales and production development. Adria Bagshaw, co-owner and vice president of W.H. Bagshaw, is a sixth generation family-owned manufacturing company, and Adria's focus is in workforce finance and strategic planning. So welcome and hi. So what I thought we'd do is start with a question for the businesses represented here by Tim, Emily, and Adria. Can you tell us about the initiatives and steps you've taken to help attract and keep the skilled workforce that you need, and what feedback have you received from your employees? Tim, you want to start?
Sure. I would first say there's absolutely no magic bullet, and at Hitchner we're just trying a multitude of things. Some will have greater success than others, but the current program that we're working on and seems to be getting a lot of attention is the one we're working on with Frank, his students call Mr. X. And that seems to get some very good traction early on so far.
So we're a fifth generation family business. We're the oldest pin manufacturers in America, and I find a lot of times as such a small family business, we don't have the resources like Hitchner to get in and get the exposure that some of our bigger counterparts might at the technical programs. So we've really just been focusing on what our strength is, and that's around our values and our culture. We recently had a machinist leave. He was offered, I think, $2 an hour more, and I'm well aware that that $2 an hour is meaningful, but he emailed us about a month later and said that he didn't really quite ask for his job back, but he had a regretful email back talking about the fact that the company he went to didn't have values and really had the wrong priorities. So we're just really doubling down on our values and our culture in an attempt to both retain and attract.
And the other Emily, too.
At Badger, I think we also have kind of a focus on making a company that people want to work at. And so we're known for our family-friendly workplace practices, including our Babies at Work program, where you can bring your baby for the first 6 months. We also have a free organic lunch every day. And so there are a lot of things like that that create a culture that I think people want to work there. And so that's the biggest reason I think that we attract employees, is just having that place where it has that reputation of a good place to work. It's a community, and you feel supported, and there are a lot of other programs that build into that, but those are just a couple of examples.
So I want to ask the two educators at the table, Frank and Emily, what are some of the programs you are working on, and how did you discover the need for these programs? And what feedback do you get about them from both students and businesses? Frank, maybe we'll start with you.
Thank you. So the manufacturing exploration and externship was an opportunity to put students in the real world environment, and certainly developed through long-term relationships with our partners, Alien Candles, Hitchin Manufacturing, and Spring Systems. And as the need rose, students make decisions on their career path, sometimes without knowing what opportunities or career paths are out there. So this particular program is unique because it opens up the doors to those companies, the companies that drive by each and every day, and you always wonder what's happening behind those doors. This takes down those walls and allows students access.
Emily, talk a little bit about what you work on.
Sure. So I work for the community college system of New Hampshire. We represent the 7 community colleges located across the state of New Hampshire, and about 3 years ago, the community college system received a grant from the U.S. Department of Labor that focuses on helping employers develop registered apprenticeship programs, really as a way, as you said, Senator, for those businesses to respond to their hiring and workforce challenges. So a lot of times when people think about registered apprenticeship, they equate those programs with traditional trade-based occupations like plumbing or electrical, maybe carpentry. And there are a lot of really wonderful programs like that here in New Hampshire that help to connect job seekers to careers. But really what our program is focused on is bringing that same apprenticeship model, on-the-job training, classroom education, full-time employment with the New Hampshire business, to industries like manufacturing, healthcare, IT, hospitality, that are the fastest growing industries here in our state, have a significant need for a skilled employee base, but at the same time are struggling to hire and retain skilled workers. So our program really focuses on sort of fixing and addressing that skills gap where we have people in our community who want to improve and better themselves, want to have a career, and we also have employers that are growing rapidly and really looking for a skilled workforce. So our program is really all about sort of listening and understanding businesses and their needs and helping them develop programs that are going to allow them to to retain and hire the workforce they need.
I'm going to come back, Emily, to you, but Frank, I want to follow up a little bit with a couple of things you said. As you describe the program, it sounds so much common sense there, right? People drive by a Hitchner, what happens at Hitchner? Students need to find out. But I expect that it didn't go from just being an idea of yours to magically happening. And so can you talk a little bit about kind of, was there a critical moment of inspiration or idea, and then did you have roadblocks? Did you have to convince people? What did it take?
Yeah, so great question. I also teach at the community college, so I'm an employee at the Manchester Community College.
Yeah.
And companies like Hitchner will send their employees for training. And the question really comes up with, why can't we do this for the younger students? Why can't we do this at high school? So a committee was put together with our partners, our partner companies, as well as school officials. And as we discussed what the vision could be for our students, it really evolved from there to that junior apprentice piece, where companies who are searching for quality, talented employees will have an opportunity to work with these students, for students to decide what their vision is. So we had a lot of different partners that joined us to help put this into action. We tried to eliminate or identify all of those potential issues, but the real issue would be, will students sign up for this? Do we have enough hooks in the water? So students are getting paid for their experience. They're earning 7 college credits. They get to leave the school building each day. These are all things that students are really interested in. And at the end of the day, will they go into manufacturing? And because of the variety in manufacturing that we're offering, we're going to Alien Candles, Hitchner, Spring Systems, and they'll go through for each company about 6 weeks, which is a short amount of time. It's 6 hours a week, but that time is valuable. Any time out of class with learning that takes place behind those walls is valuable. So they can make those decisions, I like this, or I don't like this. At the end of the day, they'll build their job readiness skills, they'll build their resume, they'll be able to conduct and present themselves well, they'll show up on time, all of these requisite job skills.
Yeah.
And we've seen significant gains. We're in our first quarter, and our first rotation is complete. And the feedback that I've been gleaning from both parents and students, that they're happy they took this class. One of the parents said this solidified my child's decision to move into manufacturing, and whatever that means. There's so many branches of manufacturing you can be exposed to.
Well, and you talked about, just at the end there, the importance of parents too, because when I have visited manufacturers in New Hampshire and educators, one of the things I hear about is that a lot of parents don't have an up-to-date understanding of what modern manufacturing is and what kind of career people can have if they decide to go into it. So do you do special outreach to parents?
We actually do, as a committee, we work together to identify open house events for both parents and students. We have both pre and post events that we're planning. And we do this so that parents understand what manufacturing is. And Tim and I were talking earlier, and I've been visiting Hitchner for 20 years, and every 6 months or so, it's something new and innovative. That's what manufacturing is all about. We're changing the way parts are made right here in Seattle.
I mean, I have a feeling this audience already knows about it, but when you get a chance to understand the range of manufacturing and advanced technology businesses in New Hampshire and how they are changing everything from the weight of our planes that we fly on to the way the defense industry is approaching various weapon systems, it's pretty extraordinary. Let's stick with the education piece for a minute, because Emily, I think a lot of us know that there are apprenticeship programs in the state of New Hampshire. As you mentioned, there are some that are sponsored, for instance, by the trades that have been around for a long time. But it takes a bit to get an apprenticeship program going. So how do you go about creating one? Are there reporting requirements? Is it complicated? And then we'll talk a little bit about how many businesses you're working with and the like.
Sure. So, prior to the community college system really getting involved in developing apprenticeship programs, if an employer here in New Hampshire was interested in putting together a program, they would have to work directly with the federal government here in New Hampshire to do that. And a lot of the feedback that we've gotten from our partners and from businesses that we work with is that that process seemed really daunting, sort of cumbersome. And so, what we've sort of been able to do on behalf of our grant is act as an intermediary for the employer. We sort of act as the middleman between them and the Department of Labor here in New Hampshire, and with all of the other community partners, our community colleges that work to play a role in developing an apprenticeship program, and that really makes it a lot easier and more streamlined for the business. In addition to myself, we have a full team of people based in the community college system office up in Concord, and help employers not only with sort of the steps of developing an apprenticeship program, but also connecting them to one of our community colleges that's able to work with them to develop a customized training plan for their apprenticeship program. We also help with recruitment as well. So obviously, in the economy that we're in now with such a low unemployment rate, even with an apprenticeship program, it's not going to be any easier finding employees. So we help businesses with recruitment and outreach and helping them to identify potential candidates. So, I think what we're able to really offer employers is a, really like a suite of resources that they can take advantage of as they're working to build their programs.
And about how many businesses have registered apprenticeship programs in the state right now?
So through our program specifically, we have about 35 employers across the state that we're working with, all the way up into the North Country in Berlin and Littleton, as far south as Seabrook and Nashua. Obviously, there are more employers with apprenticeship programs outside of our grant, as we were saying, in the traditional trades, but we've had a pretty significant impact in healthcare and manufacturing primarily.
And can you just talk a little bit more about what that impact has been?
Yeah, I think we, the best spokespeople for our program is the employers that we work with. I see Gwen Nelson from Cobham here in the room, one of our business partners. What we hear from employers is that, they before operating an apprenticeship program, they've gone months, maybe even years, with some significant openings within the company that they struggle to fill, and through the development of a registered apprenticeship program have been able to, to meet their hiring needs, to be fully staffed. And so we're pretty proud of that, and I think, businesses are feeling really good about what these programs are doing to help them retain employees.
That's great. Thank you for the overview. Tim, you and I have been talking, it seems to me, about workforce issues since I was governor. I've been to Hitchner many times, and one of the things that has struck me is Hitchner could have moved to a state that had more workers available. You could have looked elsewhere for development, but you didn't. You stayed here, you invested here, and you now offer students a chance to learn and make money in your facility. What benefit has this program and the students offered to Hitchner? And is there a cost to not getting involved in the way you have?
I think I'd first like to comment that Hitchner's over 70 years old, started in the mills in New Hampshire. The Morrisons acquired it in '49 because they retired in Peterborough, New Hampshire. And it's now being run by the third generation of Morrison, with the fourth in the business. But I think by being a family-owned company, at least at Hitchner, but I see our other two panelists are also family-owned companies. I noticed that in the bios. But a little different perspective in terms of giving back to the community. And I think that comes first. And with Milford High, we've had a long-standing relationship with internships. This manufacturing externship is really pretty special. Yes, there are selfish reasons for an employer wanting to be involved in this, with state unemployment perpetually hovering around 2.5%. I think New Hampshire is the state in the country with the second or third highest percentage of baby boomers that will be retiring, and it's difficult to find labor. So to have a program like this that can provide preferential pathways to employers, but I think at the same time, one of the things Hitchner struggles with is people coming in, no experience necessary, maybe never having worked in manufacturing, and some realizing that it's not for them, and the cost of that attrition in that first 90 days of employment. So to the extent that something like the externship program does, it allows students, while they're still in the classroom, to understand better where their career paths are. And I'm just as happy for that person who has the externship program and realizes that manufacturing is not for them, as I am for that person that's delighted and says this is something I want to explore.
No, it's certainly something I've heard a lot about. It was part of the impetus for the Gateway to Careers bill that I have, is I heard from employers that you finally get somebody in the door, and then if they're not really ready or they don't have the supports for things like childcare or transportation, you invest a lot up front in training and getting them in the door, and then they can't continue. So it does seem like a win-win to have that kind of the Milford High program, really letting people try things out. So let me turn now to Emily from Badger. You talked a little bit in your opening about the culture of your company, but it seems to me when I visited there and talked with you and your sister, who is your co-leader of the company, you really have an employee-centric culture, and it seems to me that must have a real impact on your success. So you talked a little bit about it, but what kind of steps did you take to get to this point in your culture so that it's such a fundamental part of your success?
So Badger's 25 years old this fall, I think will be, or next fall, we'll be celebrating 25 years. And when it started, it was just my dad, and it grew, a couple people.
Can I interrupt you just a second? Why don't you tell people, if you don't know what Badger makes,
Yes.
what the original product was and why?
I will, yes.
It's a great story of an entrepreneur.
So my dad was a carpenter at the time, and he had cracked hands from working outside in the winter. And so he made Badger Healing Balm for hardworking hands as the first product for the company. And we now make over 130 different products. And actually about half of what we sell is mineral sunscreen and deep-free bug repellents. So we've kind of evolved, but we make all organic body care products. And so in the kind of early days, it was just a couple of people working together. And so it's very easy to have a friendly, personal culture when it's 3 people or 5 people or even 10 people. It's natural for them all to sit together and eat lunch and to have flexible schedules because they're all just working with each other every day and supporting each other. But when you get bigger, and we have about 85 to 100 employees depending on the time of year, you have to make it a little bit more intentional. And so that's where you ask the question of, okay, if this culture is something that's important to us, that feeling of being friends with the people you work with and supporting each other, how do you make that continue as you grow? And it was, I think every year when we have a company retreat, this came up. What are we gonna do when we get bigger? Like, are we gonna still, is it gonna feel the same? And so I think that it's really been integrated now. You can see through policy and procedure within the company, the mission and principles have become much more intentional and written in. So maybe in year 5, I think my dad started making soup on Fridays for maybe 15 employees. And it became core, and early on, it became clear that when you sit together, you create community, and that when people feel community, they like working there and they want to come back the next day. And so it wasn't we didn't create a lunch program to retain employees, but it just grew organically. And so now we have a full-time chef and an assistant, and we have a full meal every day and 2 shifts in order to fit everybody in through the dining room. And it's a paid lunch break, so everybody takes it at the same time. They sit together, they don't go off-site. We're in Gilsum also, so there's nowhere to go off-site. But that's an example of how something that kind of was an organic, natural feel with a very small company has had to be kind of built in very intentionally. And I think that you have a mission and principles, but you have to back it up with putting your actions and your money into the things that you say you value. So if we value community and personal and caring communication and fun, then you also have to build in the benefits and the practices that can grow with the company.
Yeah. And if I remember, and again, partly because you're in Gilsum and you have acreage there, you've got a garden now that employees can participate in and have a little share of.
Yeah, we have gardens, and for a couple of years we use them to grow vegetables for our lunch program, and we need so many more vegetables than we can produce that it's now changed, and about half of the garden is community garden space for employees to do their own gardens, and then the other half is a gleaning garden for the community kitchen in Keene, so employees help to grow things that we can then give to the community kitchen.
Well, now let me turn to, I think, the longest existing business in the group, and it is interesting, and it's something true to New Hampshire, I think a lot. You see a lot of family-owned or anchored businesses in some way. But Andrea, your company is known as a successful, long-time family-owned business here in the Granite State. I'm going to, again, ask you to tell people what the idea was that sparked the business, what you all started as, but you've had to innovate your business model in order to continue to find success in what is a changing economy, changing industry that you supply to, and you've also worked to provide a welcoming environment for your workforce. So can you tell us a little bit about that evolution?
Sure. So I like to say we're a 150-year-old startup. So we got started in 1870. It was my husband's great-great-grandfather that started the business. He came over from England, and we were making pins for the textile industry. We did a lot of phonograph needles back in the day. We still make them today, but we like to joke that we don't make them at the same volume as we used to. We'll pun there. We're full of puns, the Backshot Company. Thank you. So over the years, we were finding that a lot of the markets we were serving were going away. And when I joined the company in 2004, we were still in a nosedive after 9/11. I had been working in manufacturing, thought that I would stay more in the corporate world, and I thought my husband's business was really sweet, but I just didn't see a place for myself there, and certainly didn't want to work with him. But I was watching from the sidelines and was very concerned. So, you know, by necessity, we had a newborn baby at home and trying to figure out my next career move, and I decided to come in part-time and just help and see what could be done. And I think I came in at just the right time where my husband kind of could see the path of where we needed to go, but needed the validation and the support and the sounding board to move the company forward. So we started investing in CNC machines. So you guys hear about the lack of skilled machinists. We talk about that all the time. We didn't know that was going to be part of the equation, but we knew that we understood the market, we understood metal, we had a lot of customers asking for it, so we started working on precision turn parts, and that's been where all of our growth has come from, and we've been able to reinvent ourselves. So we'll be celebrating 150 years in business next year, which we're really, really proud of.
And what's your major product line at this point?
You know, we really don't have one. We're a job shop, so what that means is we're selling our ability and our capability. The one product we do sell, and this kind of helps solidify what we make, are ice picks. Do any of you have an ice pick at home? You probably do, and you don't know you do. We probably made that blade, so we sell those online. We sell them in bulk to Mexico still. That's the best example of the traditional traditional type of pointed pin we've always made. Yeah.
I know, and I expect that this is true for the businesses, all of you on the panel, but let me just start with you, Adrienne, because I think that all of New Hampshire and our business community has been impacted by the opioid crisis, but we've had some conversations about the impact of that for you and your business, your decision to become a recovery-friendly business. Can you talk a little bit about that and what kind of preparation and strategies you needed to do to respond to the opioid crisis and become a recovery-friendly workplace?
So being a very small business with a very small budget, we always look for those great programs in the state that are free. I'm looking back at Amy there with the SBDC. But we started working through the governor's office. We knew that there were other programs out there. We were starting to hear about things. I heard a great segment on New Hampshire Public Radio where different employers were talking about it, and I thought, wow, like, instead of this being a source of frustration for us in terms of what was going on with the job applicant pool, how could we help change how we looked at applicants? How could we help change how we approach folks who are struggling? So we contacted the governor's office. We started working with one of the resources right in Nashua, and I had no idea we could get free training for our employees, which was fantastic. So we've had about 6 sessions. The first one was just really helping reform how people thought about addiction. So we had one about the language of substance use disorder and removing the stigma. We've done prevention at home. We had a lived experience panel. We had a whole training session on Narcan and the different resources that are available in the state. And then to supplement that, because we wanted to do things more our way, we brought in another resource. There's a woman who works in the area who's trained in PTSD, and I have been working closely with her, and we've crafted a whole customized program for our employees around stress management. And we paid for that, but it's been so rewarding, and it brought everyone together, which has just been great. So we just finished our 4th program on Friday.
That's terrific. So maybe anybody else want to jump in on this issue of either you know, the reality of what the opioid epidemic means for our talent pool in the state, but any other issues that have come up in terms of helping employees overcome barriers or trying to get people, you know, trying to build your workforce understanding that there are barriers there.
Yeah. At Hitchner, approximately 8 years ago, we had started an on-site health care. It's run by Southern New Hampshire Medical Center, so it's not employed physicians or nurse practitioners, and it was really sort of an urgent care, but a place where employees could create a relationship, because being in manufacturing, you don't necessarily get the workforce that is regularly exercising and has the best diets.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're having coronary artery disease. You could see the demographics. So we wanted this as a place where they could get ready care and they could go during their work hours. And that's been highly successful. But turning specifically to the opioid crisis, in December of this year, we added behavioral health, who is MAT certified, and she is on site 2 days a week, and that benefit is free to our employees, their spouses, and their dependents. Now, Hitchner's a drug-free workplace, being a government employer, but that doesn't mean that their family members or their spouses or their dependents aren't, and she's been heavily utilized from day one. And so I just think that was a great community need that we were going to provide to our employees.
Well, and that's terrific that she was MAT said. MAT is medically assisted treatment, and it is the gold standard for treating opioid addiction. At this point, it also, there's growing science that says you need some other things around the MAT too, but it's critically important that we have more and more people who are qualified to do it for this very reason. Emily Schroeder-White, do you want to add anything? Have you guys had anything to do?
Yeah, I mean, we've taken it up in the same way, a lot of education for our employees around just thinking about addiction as a medical condition. So how can you take care of your employees in the same way if they have a family member who's dealing with addiction of some sort? How do we support that and hold that as a community? And so that has been our focus as well, is how to kind of create a space where employees can speak up if they need support and can feel like their community will hold them just as if they were going through some other medical condition. So that's really our focus.
Frank, is this something that you see families and students needing to deal with, and how does that affect your capacity to recruit into your program and get kids into the workplace?
Well, in our district, we're a know and talent district. We went through training. We also had bridges coming to talk about any supports that would be needed. So from this particular program's perspective, there's a vetting process that students will go through. If there were need, I'm sure that we would support whatever that student need or family need would be.
And Emily, have you seen, has this been a discussion in apprenticeship programs and workplaces that you've been dealing with?
Yeah, you know, I think because the unemployment rate is so low here in New Hampshire, the employers that we're working with are tapping into a potential talent pool that, you know, most of those people are really not in the workforce, and it could be because they're struggling with substance use. So, you know, one of the things that our grant provides is what we call support services. So, you know, very similar to your Gateway to Careers Act, it's really focused on helping reduce barriers that someone may have to participating in an apprenticeship program. That could be transportation, it could be childcare, it could be access to medical care that they may need to be successful. So we try to work really closely with our partners and with apprentices to ensure that they have the resources that they need to be successful. The community college system also offers a program called Work Ready New Hampshire, which is a tuition-free soft skills training program offered at all 7 of our colleges across the state, really focused on, again, people who are unemployed or underemployed, helping them to sort of prepare to get back into the workforce. And one of the things that that program is focused on right now is connecting to people who are in recovery and who are sort of working towards re-entering the workforce, and using Work Ready as a launching board for them. And then, you know, maybe once they finish Work Ready, there's an apprenticeship opportunity that's going to be there waiting for them as well.
I certainly know that I've been at a couple of apprenticeship sites with you, and people have come up to me afterwards, some of the apprentices, to talk about the fact that they're in recovery and how important the second chance is. For some of them, it may be a third or fourth chance, but that they're really working at it. So it's been great to see the partnerships and the human-to-human outreach at all levels. It strikes me that a certain portion of this audience is probably thinking, well, these are all well-established businesses and an established high school and an established program within the community college system that have resources. And there are members of the audience who are really at that, incubator germination stage with an idea, or they have gotten an idea off the ground, and maybe their question is, I'm ready now to go from being, 2 or 3 of us working all the time to make this new idea happen and become a business. Now I'm going to need to start hiring, which when I still remember when I used to represent businesses as a lawyer, they would say to me, it's that decision to go into having a real payroll that's kind of one of the moments where you gulp a little bit. So let's just go down the line here. We'll start with Frank and come down this way. What advice do you have for entrepreneurs, innovators who are really trying to take their business to the next level? What resources would you point them to? Just general advice. So I'll start with you, Frank.
I think the untapped talent pool would be the high schools. We have many wonderful resources at the high school level that can transition to the business world. We have students that have not yet discovered their career pathway, and a door can open for them and they can find it through this type of transition. Working with your partnerships that already exist and maybe enhancing those.
I think Badger started very small, and as I've mentioned, we didn't start with all of the same benefits and programs that we have right now. And I think that if you think about the intent behind some of these bigger benefits, and there are ways to implement them that don't cost a lot of money. So having flexible schedule might be something you can do more readily with a small company, and it makes a big difference for employees to have that flexibility. Or if you want to eat together, just make an intention of setting a time when you eat together to cultivate that community. And Babies at Work doesn't cost money. It costs a little bit of patience as you have just a little bit of a different approach for a collection of months to how somebody gets their job done, but it makes a lifetime impact on that person and the child to have that time. And so I think if you look at each of these things that we do, there's a small step that can be taken in that direction that I think sets the culture and sets the tone and would allow you to add that program later on when you have the resources to.
We could not have babies at work. A lot of sharp objects where we are. My advice is always to get out and work on your business, not just work in your business. This is where I get inspired and I get ideas and I drive my office manager crazy. I've got a whole list of things she's going to do now. Sorry, Abby. But I think it's really important to get out there and connect. There are so many incredible resources in our state. Most of them are free. And I learn so much from my peers when I'm able to participate in things like this. So don't recreate the wheel. Get out there and talk to your peers that are maybe a step ahead and problem solve together.
Yeah, so Hitchner is an investment casting founder. We use a centuries-old lost wax process. And we have a trade association in the United States or North America, and it's largely a lot of mom and pop shops, very small companies and lots of family-owned companies. And we have this kind of conversation at those meetings all the time. And Hitchner's probably on the larger side, but what I say is it doesn't require a whole lot of effort at all. It doesn't require an FTE. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to reach out to your local school or your local community college and ask the questions and see what you can come up with, and just be open-minded to what the possibilities are.
Thank you.
I would say two things. You know, we work with employers of all sizes, so very large companies that can hire 15 or 20 apprentices all at once, to much smaller employers that are maybe only taking on 1 or 2 apprentices at a time. So I would say, you know, don't let capacity be the thing that prevents you from pursuing something like an apprenticeship if it really interests you, because we work with businesses of all sizes. The second thing I would say is, you know, our community colleges are very committed to helping to respond to and solve the workforce and hiring challenges of our businesses, even beyond apprenticeship. So each of our colleges has a workforce development or business training center on campus that is really solely there to develop training that's customized and specific to business and industry. So I would encourage you to connect with and outreach to one of those people. Many of them are here in this room today to learn more about how they might be able to support your needs.
Well, thank you, and I am seeing body language from my staff, which tells me we are getting close to needing to wrap up. This has been really wonderful, and I've learned a lot and eager to take some of what I've learned back to the legislation we're doing, because part of our process is, you know, getting something down on paper, talking to other offices, talking to other senators about the idea, and then getting feedback. And I think it makes the legislation better, and also the better the idea is, and the more workable it is, the more likely it'll actually become law and get the kind of momentum it needs. But before we close, because it's been a really productive discussion, and I am very grateful to all of you for sharing just a ton of expertise. But is there anything else you want to add? Anything I didn't ask that you want this audience to know?
I would just like to thank you for your support. I mean, since the time when you were our governor, you've been there, you've asked questions, your staff has reached out, and they've been there when we've needed help, so thank you.
Thank you very much.
You know, one thing I didn't get a chance to mention, and that we have worked on with you as well, is that Badger is a B Corp, and it's a business certification that points to how you treat the environment, your employees, the community, and you can also be an actual benefit corporation in New Hampshire for, was it 5 years now? We've had that legislation.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of the really important things that attracts employees, especially younger employees, to our company, is that we are a B Corp and a benefit corporation. And it's because not only is it a nice place to work, but also you feel like you have a sense of purpose in the greater work that you're doing when you go to work every day. So I think just thinking about kind of what your business purpose is, and if you can build it into something that is visible to potential employees, it makes you a more attractive employer.
Anybody else? Well, with that, I will thank you again for a really productive discussion. I hope that everybody here has a productive day for the rest of this forum. I look forward to our continued work together. I want to reiterate, you should feel free to reach out to our office at any time, whether it's an idea that you think we should be taking up in Congress, whether you want help navigating state resources. You know, we can connect you to state government resources as well. Or whether it's just wanting to let me know that there's an issue out there that you think lawmakers need to know about, or the administration needs to know about. That's really the job, is just to understand what's going on the ground in New Hampshire, and trying to give our innovators, our entrepreneurs, our business community the resources you need to thrive. Because at the end of the day, it is our businesses who create jobs and give people that chance to work and make a better life for themselves. You also, it being New Hampshire, you create a lot of products that are just extraordinary and really change lives for people. Probably the biggest round of applause I get when I go out and talk about what makes New Hampshire special I go through all our history and our independence and everything, and then I say, and we make Velcro. And everybody just like starts applauding because everybody knows what Velcro is and what a game changer it has been in so many different industries. That's what New Hampshire does. We roll up our sleeves, we innovate. We don't wait for other people to solve problems. We do it ourselves, as you can hear from this panel, with a workforce challenge that is, you know, it's the product of a really good economy and a really low unemployment rate. That's a blessing, but it produces its challenges too. And we really want to continue working the way we always do in New Hampshire to solve this challenge. And as we do that, recruit more people to the state and grow the economy here. So what a pleasure to be with you this morning. I think I'm going to be around for a few more minutes. We're going to take a break right now, and then there will be that next panel. Again, thank you all to our wonderful panelists. Thank you all.